Welcome to It Takes Heart. I'm Kate.
And I'm Sam, and we can't wait to share more incredible stories of healthcare professionals making an impact across Australia.
So they're going to go out, they're going to take their drugs, which is fine. If you want to take drugs, take drugs. But if something goes wrong, they always know the medical team is there to help them if needed. And we maintain that non-judgmental, we are here to help you. I always remember in Kingaroy, we had med students that stayed with us for the entire year. And in the first few months, they usually would do more than their colleagues would do in the entire year back in a major hospital. Because we would teach them IVs, sutures, stuff like that within a week or two.
We care for the land and sea.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land of which we meet, who for centuries have shared ancient methods of healing and cared for their communities. We pay our respects to elders past and present.
Today, we are joined by Dr. Tim Turk, who is an active member of our CMR doctors community. Originally from Canada, Tim has a passion for emergency medicine. He began his career, would you say that? He began his career as an emergency nurse. He was even a paramedic for a brief period. Tim travelled the world as a nurse unit manager on a Disney cruise liner for many years until he met an Aussie girl and eventually has settled in Australia. Now a rural and remote specialist, Tim lives in Queensland with his wife and works a load of jobs. But the highlight, maybe, but this might change, is locuming in some rural locations, working as a doctor on the defence base, and also working as a medic at various music and community events. Probably that is like a very high-level summary, Tim. It's great to have you here.
That's sort of the top three jobs.
The top three. I can't wait to hear about the others.
Yeah.
Welcome to It Takes Heart.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
That's like quite a life and a lot of adventure. But Can we just talk about Disney for a moment? Yeah. Because I went on a Disney cruise with my family last year for 4 days.
Yeah.
How long were you?
So I worked there for about a bit over 5 years.
On a boat?
So you do 4 months on, 2 months off.
Right.
And that, was a revolving contract. So whatever the 4 months happened to be, if that was Christmas and New Year's, you were on board. If that was the middle of summer / winter.
Like the whole time?
Yeah. So 4 months straight on the ship. Oh. And then 2 months off. And then they would usually call me back during the 2 months for like a week or two at a time, just because I worked hard. So they wanted me on board every so often to, like, if something happened, if a nurse got sick, they knew they could just give me a ring and I could fly into some random location and hop on board and start smiling the next day kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was about 5 years.
And is it like working in Disney where smile's always on?
Oh, yeah.
Music always playing?
Yeah.
And
like, what's the best bit about that job and what is the worst bit?
The best bit, because it's working on a cruise ship. So you're traveling, you're going all over I did the Mediterranean, I did the Baltic, multiple places in the Mediterranean. I did transatlantic crossings, a couple of them. I did all around the Caribbean. I did through the Panama Canal. I did the east coast of the U.S. and I did the Mexican Riviera. And just, over and over, like every week or every 10 or 11 days, we'd do a cruise. So I'd go back to the same ports over and over again, which meant that you started to learn them more and more, and you got to know the nice places to go, and you found the good restaurants and the good gelato places, and and so that was really fun. But it is Disney. So you were like, we were technically, we worked for a separate contracted company, but we worked for Disney, so you had to be on all the time. You're smiling, special points and the 2-finger points and things like that, and all we actually went and did it.
It's like,
what's a whole thing?
Because if you point with one finger, you can identify a single person. Someone might feel pointed out in a crowd. Whereas if you're using your whole hand to gesture or 2 fingers, it's obvious that you're telling someone where to go or what to do. So you actually do 3 days of, it's called Disney University, and you do 3 days at the parks in Florida where they teach you all this stuff, and you learn history of Disney, and you learn care and quality stuff and presentation, and then all the safety stuff of how to get in a lifeboat and what to do if the fire alarm sounds and all that kind of good stuff, and that kind of kept going on the ship as well, like the training and whatnot. Which kind of turned into the worst thing too, because you were never not on.
Yeah, it must have been exhausted. I felt like overstimulated. I'm so happy. I was like, I just need to get off for a minute.
Well, it's fun because you have the background music all the time. You have there's people walking around all the time. Everyone's smiling and all, and most of the people there really do enjoy themselves. They like working there. They're having fun, but the nurses, the doctors, deck crew, stuff like that, we're all part of the emergency response teams. So you're on 100% of the time. So if there's a medical emergency and it's the middle of the night and you're supposed to be at work the next day, you're getting up and you're running somewhere on the ship to help people. And you might not, like we had someone have a heart attack halfway across the Atlantic one time. And you can't go anywhere. You're stuck. So we're looking after him 24 hours a day. So we have like the medical centers on the ship are 4 or 5 consulting rooms, kind of like an ICU setup, a couple of treatment rooms and things like that. Yeah, like
so you can actually manage.
So, but we had to do. There's only 3 nurses, and we had to run 24-hour care on this guy. We ended up doing kind of like 12 on, 12 off shifts plus the rest of our work to look after this one woman, actually, but one person that was really, really sick. And you can only do so much. Like you couldn't get a helicopter out there because the seas were too rough. So we asked them to speed up, but you can't. It's a ship.
How much quicker?
It's not like a car where you can floor it, kind of thing. It's I think they took about 6 hours off the transatlantic crossing, which is impressive. But it doesn't really change a lot for you. You're still working. You're still working pretty hard. But it was fun. It was great fun, and I would go back in a heartbeat. But it's not. You have to know what you're getting into.
Can I ask? Do you if Pluto is having an off day, is it like, Tim, you're on a 12 hours off, can you be Pluto? Like, do you sub into that?
No. So the how can I
feel
say
it's
this?
a yes.
There's a story though.
No, so all of the characters and stuff all live on board the ship, and they're very strict on their scheduling and stuff to make sure they get enough breaks and enough rest. But everyone has more than one job. I actually met my wife on board the ship.
Because I remember you'd see them on there, like there'd be this place and there'd be that place.
Yeah,
So that's why I asked. Everyone works lots of jobs.
Yeah, so she was actually a lifeguard, and she sold the shore excursions, and she would do the greeting at the theaters at nighttime, and then she would do guest info sometimes as well. So everyone did multiple jobs. But the only people that didn't do multiple jobs were kind of like the guys who drove the ship and the medical team.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of there just to be doctors and nurses.
Very specialized.
We're pretty specialized. But we still were, you had to go and do the meet and greets. We were officers, so we had to go do meet and greet officer things. We had to go do stuff in the restaurant sometimes. We do tours. We do,
Yeah, wow. Do you hear Disney songs now and just...
Well, I've got two 4-year-olds, so
right.
I hear Disney songs
deep in Disney. You're right back there.
Well, I don't mind it though.
Yeah,
like it's you don't mind it after a while. You just kind of get used to it. Yeah. I can sing along with a lot of it just as well, and I think the best part was also is I was there when Disney took over Marvel as well.
Yeah.
So we got to watch all the movies the day before they came out.
Yeah.
Because they would show them to the staff and the crew. The day before, they would set up a theater just for crew, and we'd have like popcorns and beverages and stuff. Oh yeah, like it was a full-on premiere, but we could dress down, we could have fun, and we were watching a movie like easily 48 hours before the rest of the world would see the movie, because we needed to be able to talk about it. Yeah. We needed to be able to tell people like, oh, you really want to go see it, and don't leave after this, and you really can't, you're not going to believe what happens to this character. And we had to talk everything up on the ship. And because you're stuck there, and so premieres at sea, and with the ears, of course.
Healthcare staff with high levels customer service. That's gonna then work for you in your future.
Yeah, because that is what, when you said you got to know what you're getting into, that would be part of it too.
Yeah, and that's actually probably the part of it that's followed me through most of my career is the patient is. They're guests. We don't call them passengers. They're guests. They are there to be treated. They're there to be helped. But they're having a bad day, and you need to do everything you possibly can to make them feel better about themselves. And you need to talk to them. You need to talk to their family. You need to deal with everything. You have to be nice to everybody. You have to smile. You have to give them an experience. You have to help them be happy again. And that just kind of continues. And it's that sort of idea of, if it takes you 2 extra seconds or 5 minutes to do something that will make someone's day significantly better, just do it? You know, like little things like that is what we were and that was expected on the ship. But then when you start doing it in kind of real life, everyone's just kind of looking at you like, why are you doing that? It's
That
like,
must have been, yeah.
It doesn't hurt. Like,
doesn't hurt you.
It doesn't
and
stop me from
Why are
doing
you
anything.
smiling so
Yeah.
much?
Yeah, like, why are you smiling? Why are you, like, you know, like, why are you just letting that person rant at you for 5 minutes? It's like, because they needed to rant to somebody for 5 minutes. And now that they're done ranting, they're calm and we can talk to them
We can
again.
actually.
So, yeah.
So take us back. Like, you were a nurse, a paramedic, now a doctor.
How is that even
How-
possible? Because I was expecting you to walk in here and be really old, like to
Well,
have gone through
I feel
all
like
of
I am.
these. Oh, trust me, I feel too. But like a lot of study, like
Yeah.
How does that all come together?
So left high school, obviously, at like 18, you know, when everyone else does, and went straight into nursing school, which is 4 years of Bachelor of Science degree in nursing.
In Canada?
In Canada, yeah. So went to McMaster in Hamilton. Got my degree, started working in critical care and ED. Actually did a lot of ED psychiatry work just because it was fun and interesting and no one else wanted the job. So I got it right out of school, which is really rare. Really enjoyed it, but thought I kind of didn't want to do some of the patient care stuff in the hospitals was getting a little frustrating because you had to, you know, you spent more time documenting than actually treating people, and that was getting frustrating. So I just was like on a whim, applied to paramedic school, and got in. And I don't know why I got in. I still don't actually know why I got in because apparently there was a wait list that year.
And it's
I
very,
was-
that's quite
very competitive.
it's and I tell people, like, I literally just applied for it on a whim on a night shift and filled out the paperwork and filled out I had to write an essay, and there's like hilarious. It was one of those nights where there was like 2 patients in the ED and both of them were asleep, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and write a paper.
Yeah.
You know, and I sat down and wrote everything and submitted it and got in. And
How long had you been nursing at that point?
8 months, maybe.
Do you wonder if the nursing component fast tracked you a little bit?
Probably not. Not in Canada, at least.
Yeah.
They're very separated degrees. So got in, went straight back into school. Basically, did 2 years paramedics to add on to that, and really, really enjoyed being a paramedic. And it was very much my kind of medicine, and I enjoyed doing the work.
Did you keep the nursing
Yeah,
component up at the same time?
Actually, when I was in school, I would work as a nurse.
Yeah.
Which will come back when I become a doctor too.
Yeah.
But then I became a paramedic and enjoyed it, loved it, had a lot of fun, but also, I mean, this is Canada. I hated dealing with people on the side of the road when it's minus 30 and there's no light and, you know, people are driving past too fast on a snowy road and you're just like, you know, I really like heating and fluorescent lights. This is a little much. So, all right, whatever. What can I do differently? And that's when I randomly, you know, I looked at cruise ships, and
Right.
I didn't even know that Disney had a cruise line at that point. I knew Disney existed.
Because you
obviously,
don't unless you've got kids.
Yeah. Well, I was
To be
like-
fair, I didn't until a year ago either.
Who else
Exactly.
is seeking out the Disney
Yeah.
cruise?
So I actually applied to a few other cruise lines, and then someone kind of commented like, "Oh, apply to this company too. They do Disney." I was like, "Disney has cruise ships? Oh, cool. All right." Applied, and they called me, and I was like, "Yeah, you know, did an interview on the phone, and you know, talked to them, and did some clinical scenarios with their nurse practitioner that they had working for them." And they were like, "Okay, we'd be really happy, but when can you start?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, when do you need me?" And they're like, "Well, what about next week?" And this is like Monday, and they needed me on board the ship Tuesday the next week. I was like,
There's like a theme in
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And you've got to do all of that training. You've
well,
got to
so
do,
then that was the thing is like, well, so can you do it? And I'm like, well, sure. I realized at that point, I mean, asked how much are you going to pay me kind of thing, but it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess, why not? And they're like, okay, well, so we're going to send you the flight details for your flight out on Wednesday. You're going to come to Florida, and then you're going to get on the cruise ship in Cape Canaveral on Tuesday the week after. And I was like, wait, why am I going to Florida? Wait, hold on. I had to hold up. This is, I mean, I'm old, so this is like pre-Google Maps.
yeah, yeah.
So I had to like
I have
pull-
a few questions.
Yeah.
I had to pull up a map and be like, okay, where am I going? Oh, I'm going there. And then
Yeah.
the cruise. Okay, great, whatever. Trust it. Just what's the worst that could happen is kind of how I lived my life for a long time. There's, let's see what happens. And it worked out great. You know, I spent 4 nights in the resorts in Disney, and because you work for them, you got free access to the parks. So we would do class for usually about 4 or 5 hours a day. And then they would just kind of dismiss us. And there's buses, like there's free buses in Disney. So we just get on a bus and be like, which park do we want to go to today? It's like, oh, let's go to Animal Kingdom today. And just, why not? Like, it's all free. We don't care. You know, it's just like, go check it out. So we went and saw 3 of the major parks in those 3 days kind of thing. We'd go to downtown Disney at nighttime and just have fun. Learned a lot, but just had a lot of fun too. And then hopped on the ship. And
how did you then become a doctor?
So the last contract I did for Disney was, so when I started working for Disney, they only had 2 cruise ships. Now they have 5 and almost 6, I think. I think the 6th one's coming out next year, but I don't know anymore. I was the first crew when they had these 2 ships for about 10 years. And then they were like, all right, we need to expand. We're doing really well. We need to expand. So they bought 2 new ones. They built 2 new ones. You don't buy a cruise ship. It's their, you can't go to a dealership. Can't go to a dealership. You know, it's, so they had to, you know,
maybe after COVID.
Well, it's actually, anyway, but so they were building 2 new ships. And the first one to come out was the Disney Dream. And I went to Bremerhaven in Germany. And I was the first crew. I was part of the first crew that brought it over to North America to start working again in the Caribbean. And that was my last contract. And I kind of was getting a little bit bored doing nursing. Liked it. I was enjoying it. But I was just like, oh, you know, should I be a nurse practitioner? Should I just do a critical care certificate? Like, what should I do next? And I was in the U.S. at this point. Like, I'd basically been living in the U.S. for 6 years at this point, 5 years at this point. And I just went like, well, I'll just apply to med school. Again,
cool.
like,
Sure.
Why not?
Quite
like,
night on it. Why not?
Actually, it was a day. But it was hilarious because, you know, like, people asked me, like, well, what were you doing? I was like, well, I was actually sitting on the deck in a recliner with my laptop on my lap, filling out a med school application, just chilling on a cruise ship, filling out a med school application. And it was the same kind of thing. I got a call a few weeks later. They did an interview and they're like, hey, do you want to join us? I'm like, I guess I'm going to go be a doctor now.
So you're very relaxed about how these things have come about, but clearly you're clearly highly intelligent and must have
write a very good application.
Very good application, but also the I guess how well you did at university and things like that. There must have been some, you know.
I was a solid B student. I was not even remotely the smartest person in my class by any means. I was 6th in my med school class, so close to 5th too. But I was sick. But you know, like
top 10.
Yeah, well, that's what I tell people. I'm in top 10, but I can't say top 5, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, that would bug me too. Yeah.
But you know, and that's fine. You know, and I realized in med school, like, I really actually have to study this stuff. Like, this is really important now. You know, I'm realized because I had the background of the nursing, I had the background of the paramedic. I could see these doctors that were making the decisions that I always just rolled my eyes at and thought they were being silly. They actually really were making big decisions. Big, like, if you make the wrong choice, really bad things can happen. So I'm like, I really should study hard for this kind of thing. So I studied really hard in med school. I did well. But no, nursing and paramedic, I was a B-ish student, you know, 80s-ish kind of student.
Did you then go into emergency medicine, like, as soon as you graduated medical school? Like there seems to have been that theme, but then when I said that earlier, you're like,
No. I like ED. Don't get me wrong. I really like ED. But I actually, coming from, I did med school in the U.S. obviously, and coming over from the U.S., being a Canadian, doing med school in the U.S. and coming over to Australia, because we sort of like had decided after med school we immigrate to come back to Australia. Shannon, my wife, was already living here. Obviously, she was Australian.
Had you been working as a doctor yet?
No.
In the
So
States?
I had just finished med school.
Right.
Like, literally just graduated. I'd done all the USMLE testing. I had all my American stuff done.
Yeah.
Came over to Australia and they went, you don't qualify.
Yeah.
I was like, why not? And they're like, well, you haven't done the AMC exams. I'm like, do you mean these AMC exams that you guys use the USMLE to, like, base your questions off of? I'm like, you just realize I finished all of those exams. And they're like, yeah, no, they don't count. Like, all right, fair enough. When can I write those exams? Oh, the next one's in 6 months. Like, okay, what am I going to do for 6 months? Well, it turned out my nursing license transferred. Okay. And Opera was like, do you want to be a nurse? I'm like, I mean,
sure, okay.
I will. So this is great. I'm like, that's totally fine. And
are there nursing jobs here?
Well, that was my next question. They're like, and I was like, well, is it hard? Like, I'm talking to Opera at this point. You know, like, I didn't know anything about it. I was like, whatever. I'll just ask these people. I was like, well, is it hard to find nursing jobs? And the woman on the phone laughed, and I'm like, was that a good laugh or bad? I'm not going to ask. Like, my future is in your hands. I'm not going to insult you.
Yeah.
Just, okay, cool, great, cool. Yeah, I'll take my nurse's license. That's fine. And they're like, okay, send us these 2 pieces of paper. And I sent them over, and I became a nurse. So I was actually Dr. Timothy RN on my nurse's license. And for a while there, I actually had my nurse's and my medical license at the same time. Because one hadn't expired and my nurse's license hadn't expired yet. So people would look me up and they're like, are you a doctor or a nurse? I'm like, well, according to Opera, I'm actually both right now.
Yeah.
But I worked in Darwin
Yeah.
I basically studied for the AMC exams while I worked up in Darwin. And then we moved to Queensland and I did all the clinical exams and stuff. And then I started internship in Queensland.
How long did that take? So the
About
AMC
a
wasn't
year and a
for 6
half.
months. Like
Yeah,
how long
but-
does it actually take you to study and prepare and be
So
ready
I
for
just
those
basically, I took the very first time. So you actually can go on a wait list.
Yeah.
Again, this sort of classic last minute, like, what are you doing next week
I
kind of
love
stuff.
there's a
Like,
wait
yeah.
list. And you're like,
real
and then I
theme.
did it. Yeah.
But I'd sort of just finished med school. So I was really in a study kind of mode. So I just
Yeah.
grabbed all the study material for the AMC and I just started studying for it. And I just kept studying basically and kept reading and kept doing all the work and kept keeping up on stuff and working. Did a lot of night shifts because that's the best time to study. And became so how did it end up mapping? So I think I got a call middle of the week, 1 week that, there were two options. You could either come to Adelaide, from Darwin to Adelaide, or you could do Perth. And the flights from Darwin to Adelaide were cheaper. So I said, okay, sure, I'll do Adelaide. Well, when is that test? Oh, it's on Wednesday or Thursday the next week. No worries. I'll see you there. So I think I had to wait about 4 months. And then you have to do a clinical exam too. It's like an OSCE style clinical exam, that's fine. I get it. You want to make sure people can speak English and do clinical work.
And actually treat.
Actually talk to somebody
Yes.
and stuff like that. I get it. And that was the same thing. It was like, oh, when's the next one? Oh, it's 8 months from now. Oh, okay. Was there a wait list for this one too? Absolutely. Great.
Great.
Toss me on the wait
Pop
list.
me on there.
And I just kept working.
On the cancellation list, I can be ready tomorrow.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. And all of them are on weekends. They're all Saturdays and Sundays. And you get a call on a Wednesday or Thursday. Can you be in Melbourne? Because at that point, they were all done in person in Melbourne. Or Cairns, I think, somewhere, but Melbourne was the main one. And I got a call and they're like, hey, you need to be in Melbourne for your Sunday morning test. No problem. Hop on a plane, pop over to Melbourne, grab a, backpacker's accommodation for 2 days, keep studying, did the test. You find out a month later. Like, they probably know at the end of the day that you passed or not, but you find out a month later that you passed, and it's like, cool, now I'm a doctor in this country too.
Yeah.
And then I just, applied for internships and got an internship in Queensland.
Yeah.
And I liked being a doctor, but I actually really preferred internal medicine, which is kind of like the doctor that treats everything that isn't a specialty. So if, and I've always liked rural medicine. I always liked the country. And I sort of was like, well, how can I put those two things together? And that was when I found out about ACRM, which is Australian College of Rural and Remote Medicine. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Sure, no problem kind of thing. And that was the same kind of idea. Just, during internship, I applied for it. And they're like, oh, well, if you want to join us, that's no problem. But you'll have to go to Kingaroy, which is a town in Queensland. I was like, where's that? Google existed at this point, so I could actually look it up. Yeah. Googled it. Really went, yeah, it's only 2.5 hours from Brisbane. That's fine. We can still pop back if we need to kind of thing. And then then I started just being a doctor in Kingaroy. And I did most of my training through Kingaroy, around Kingaroy. Yeah.
Do you, now, are you locuming in and out around Queensland? Like, how does then the locum piece, rural and remote, work for you now?
So I do. So 3 days a week I work for the defense. So I work for a separate company. Again, it's like I do a lot of contracts. I've realized I don't actually work for people, but I do. So
Not
I
one
do,
for commitment. Hang in there, Shannon.
Oh, she's very used to this by now. It's kind of funny. But I do 3 days a week. I work at the base, and that's just a lot of GP work and just keeping them going. And there's some emergencies. They break arms and stuff like that. So you treat that. And then the rest of the week, I sort of just find interesting contracts and do fun things. And a lot of that is emergency rural work because most hospitals in rural areas only have an emergency room. They'll have a ward, but the ED doctor is the one covering it. So I just pop out there and go and work in emergency rooms. And I'll pretty much go anywhere. Not a huge tropics fan just because of the humidity, but I do South Australia. I've done New South Wales a fair bit, done some stuff, and I do Queensland Health as well. I locum with Queensland Health as well. So yeah.
Maybe.
Go on. No.
I was going to say, can you maybe paint a picture of some of those rural hospitals that you go to? Like, what's this like? Because when people think that they're going to go to a rural hospital, like, what is it? How,
And
I think
wasn't
to
it
hear
that Tim
that
had
there's
said that like there was doing a stint in rural is like a form of punishment. There's that perception that people think it's punishment.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
what is
that?
Yeah. Med students usually look at their rural placements as punishment until about week 2 when they get there and they realize that you have to make it something. Like
so why is that what people
so
say?
they think they're being punished because they're not in a city anymore. They're being taken away from the city. They're being sent to this location that you can't even pronounce. That you
It's
know,
like not desirable.
yeah, it's a not desirable look. You know,
Nothing to do.
being at the PA is where everyone wants to be, or being at RBWH
yeah.
and the Raw down in Adelaide. Like that's where everyone you want to be in the big hospital. You know what? And if you're in a big hospital, there's a senior doctor. There's 3 registrars. There's 4 juniors. There's
someone
5
who
medical
knows more
students.
than you do.
Well, but it's not even that. It's you never see a patient.
I was just about to say,
You
you
never
don't
do
see
anything.
anything. Yeah.
You know, you're the 7th person in the room, and if you're lucky and like me and you're tall, you can at least see what's going on at the front. But usually you're stuck at the wall and you can't, and you can listen. You don't really get a lot out of listening in a lot of physical exam stuff. It's like, I wonder what he's doing. I can't see it, but I'm going to stand back here and play on TikTok or something like that. You know, rural medicine, you show up on day 1 and we kind of look at you and we're like, well, what can you do? And they're like, well, what do you want me to do? It's like, well, there's a patient in bed 3. Go see him. Go ask them what's wrong with them. Well, but I've never done that before. It's like, well,
yeah, wow.
got to do it at some point. So now's and we're rural medicine, rural doctors in general are astoundingly supportive because we know that a lot of people that come out there are not used to it. They're not used to this, like, just go work. Like, well, what if they have a cardiac problem? It's like, well, I guess you get to play cardiologist today.
Yeah.
You know, what if they have a respiratory problem? It's like, well, do you remember what a pulmonary function curve looks like? I hope you do, because you're going to have to create one now. Like you have, and so we teach the med students so much more, and they get so much more.
Must be thrilling once you get past the initial shock.
And it's I always remember in Kingaroy we had med students that stayed with us for the entire year, and in the first few months they usually would do more than their colleagues would do in the entire year back in a major hospital. Like because we would teach them IVs, sutures, stuff like that within a week or 2. And that was just expectation after that. Like, oh, there's a guy with a laceration over there. Just can you go suture it up for me? Yeah, okay. You know, and the concept of a med student doing your sutures for a lot of people in the rural community is like, yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
In a city, oh no, the med student's watching. And it's a doctor doing it. It's like, no, out here, there's only one doctor and the med student. So you're getting a med student. But
at the end of that year, how did the med students feel?
Oh, they rave about it. I mean, usually halfway through the year, they're already raving about it and telling all the med students that think they're being punished by being sent there the next year. Like, you are not being punished. Like, let me tell you all the things that you're going to get when you're out here and how much better it is. And yeah, I mean, and we look after them. We'd take them out. We'd make sure they had fun. We'd, tell them all the places to go and all the rural, like the things to go see in the area and all the fun stuff to do. But junior doctors have the same attitude. They're being punished because they're being sent out to a rural location and they don't understand that they're going to get so much experience and so much learning when they're there. And yeah.
So maybe can you talk us through or share a story where you feel you get that exposure, or it sounds like you can really see that direct impact on that community that you're working in versus all the various people in the room in a metro hospital?
Oh, I mean, a lot of the time in the rural, the biggest thing is you see the patients. You see them the next day. You see them a week later. You can honestly, you sometimes talk to them in public. Like Shannon loves telling a story about people that would stop me at Woolies. Like we could never just go grocery shopping. I had to talk to 10 people every time I went to the store.
Like, Tim, I've got ingrown toenail as well.
But it was like, oh, that's the doctor who treated me in the ED last. Oh, my kid is doing so much better. Thank you for seeing us at 2:00 in the morning when I have my bags under my eyes were as big as my eyes, kind of thing. It's like, that's what we're here for, kind of thing. I mean, you always know you're making an impact in a rural community, and they'll tell you, like you get the feedback almost immediately whether you're doing a good job or not. I mean, and I have fun stories about rural medicine all the time because you actually get to follow the patient through and you find out and you do so much interesting stuff. And like I ruined a woman's wedding once.
Oh, go on.
So so it was the sort of classic. I was just about to finish, so it must have been just around 6:00, and 20-odd-ish-year-old woman came into the ED, told to come there by the gym that she was working out at, and she was trying to get in shape for her wedding. It was good for her, fine, great, no worries. And both of her arms were weak suddenly. And everyone was just like, ugh, she just worked out too hard. I was like, well, there's a few other reasons why your arms could both suddenly become objectively weak. Like, I'm like, lift your arm up. She can't. I'm like, that's not normal. Like, even if you do a lot of curls, you can still lift your arm up afterwards, kind of thing, All right, well, I'm going to put a neck collar on you real quick, and then we're going to run you through a CT scanner. And she had a vertebral artery dissection. So I got to, this was probably a Wednesday, knowing my luck. And her wedding was that weekend. And I was like, so Ever been in a helicopter before? Because it was actually one of the fun ones. We again, we had the CT locally, which is amazing, like rural
I was
hospitals.
just going to say, is that common to be able to do
not
CT?
even remotely.
Right.
And what would have the plan been if you didn't?
Oh, she 100% would have gotten a helicopter ride no matter what. She
Yeah.
needed imaging.
Yeah.
Like just the spidey senses were going off on this one kind of thing, but it just something wasn't right. And so we were really lucky where I was working. We had actually just got a CT. The King Roy Hospital had a massive redevelopment while I worked there. We got a brand new hospital with a CT scanner. So we went from a little teeny hospital to this beautiful, beautiful brand new building, brand new ED with like double the capacity and a CT that we had access to 24 hours a day. It was unbelievably nice. So we could call in the radiographer who was, my friend who lived at the farm up the road kind of thing. And I was like, hey, remember how you were eating dinner? I'm really sorry. And he, came in and did it. And we, you just walk into the room. Like, again, it was this one-on-one medicine or actually fun medicine where you could go follow the patient. And instead of just like, whatever, order it and walk away kind of thing, I followed her in and watched the scan come up on the screen. And I'm looking at it going, that's not right. I'm not a radiologist by any means, but I could see that something was very wrong. And so I started making all the phone calls and everyone wanted the official report. They wouldn't believe me.
Because if they're going to organise
yeah, because they were like, well, if you're going to organize a helicopter, we need the official
Yeah.
report. And I'm like, no, trust me on this one. Like, you just start the process. Like, oh, fine, we'll do it, but we don't believe you kind of thing. And I got the urgent phone call from the imaging guys, the readers, saying, you need to put this person in a back collar and a collar and do this, and they need a helicopter. I'm like, yeah, I know. We've already organized it. And they're like, oh, well, who read the scan? I'm like, I did. Oh, are you a radiographer? No, I'm just a rural doctor. That's what we do. And then I got to call everyone back and say, hey, remember I said I was right? Turns out I was right. But yeah, so she got flown out and had vascular surgery and was in a brace for 3 or 4 days and missed her wedding. Because I felt really bad. I got a thank you card.
Did you get to go to the actual?
No, I did not get an invite. I probably was on everyone's bad list, but I did get a thank you card afterwards. Like, yes, I know you ruined my wedding, but thank you for not letting me die.
Well, saving my
Yeah. Because so that was like it's a plus minus card. I called them. But you get good outcomes a lot of the time in rural medicine, and because you get to treat everything, you're not just referring everybody off. You're not just seeing somebody going, you have a heart problem, there's a cardiologist over there that'll see you now, and going back to the computer. And it's like, no, you have to do everything. Which is great. It keeps your brain going, and it's so much more fun. And emergency medicine is great, and you get to do a lot of interesting things in it. But actually proper rural ED medicine where you're just treating everything and and you don't refer because you can't until it's really outside of our scope, and you just treat them. So
That's incredible.
Yeah, I like it. It's good fun.
And so then you also work in events.
That sounds very
sorry.
Disney. You're in events.
No.
Like tourism.
I live in Queensland.
Medical work, concerts, doing that emergency response and various.
Is that what you do?
Well, yeah, kind of. So I work for a company called Hess Paramedicine, and we do event medicine and events. So like the first aid tents at events and things like that.
And did that come about just because
you wanted tickets to a concert?
You want to go back to that more paramedic?
No,
not
that
treating
was actually
under the fluoro lights.
So it was I think I was in PGY 2 or 3. I was just a junior doctor, and I called up a company that did medical retrievals, and they were just like, well, do you want to? Like, I just called them and said, like, can I work for you? Can I do like road transfers or something? Like, I just needed extra money or something like that. I'm like, whatever, it could be fun. I'm like, well, we don't hire juniors. I'm like, fair enough. But what are you doing this weekend, kind of thing? And it was a very standard job offer for me. Is what are you doing this weekend? And like, well,
you're the last minute guy. If we ever need someone to go somewhere tomorrow, I know who to call.
Team, we've got a job come in, Tim.
But and they were just like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, it depends on what you want me for. And they're like, well, Queensland Raceway has a car racing event on this weekend, and they need a doctor. Sure. Where do I go? And they're like, well, Google Queensland Raceway and just show up there, and we'll give you a shirt and we'll put you in the response car and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, all right, great. So I started doing that, and I did that on and off for years.
For just Queensland Raceway.
So Queensland Raceway and Lakeside Raceway.
Oh my God, my husband will be
I
listening.
was about to
Yeah.
say,
He
like,
Well,
races,
a while
so
ago
he'll
they
be like,
were-
ask more, but I don't
Yeah.
know what to ask you about that.
It's in the last couple of years they've changed hands. The different people own the two tracks now, so I only work at one of them now. But yeah, we did. I never did supercars because supercars has their own doctors and medical teams and stuff like that. But we did the Shannon's racing weekends, and we did all of every race weekend. So it was like I would be there Saturday and Sunday. And there would be sort of practice and qualifying on the Saturday, and then the start of the racing, and then a lot of racing on the Sunday. And it was very quick. The races were only sort of 20 laps or 10, 15, 20 laps. It's maybe half-hour races at the most, and then so we do 2 an hour. Like you'd be pushing people through, going, and many, many different kinds of cars, and everything from like little teeny Hyundai, what are they called again? Excels, I think. Yeah. Hyundai Excels.
I'd love to help you out there, but
it's the
I feel like I need to tell you what my husband drives, but I'm like, I'm really like, it just looked like a coffin on wheels.
And then everything up to like big, expensive, fancy open-wheeled race cars and stuff would be there, and proper teams with proper trucks driving high-end Porsches and fun things like that. And you just half the time I'd be sitting there just reading magazines, waiting for something to happen.
Did you have interests in cars?
Oh, the cars are amazing.
I love
it.
So it would have been interesting
really
for you
love
as
it.
well
Yeah.
to be part of that.
It was great fun for me because I got to poke around in race cars.
Yeah.
And I learned all sorts of stuff about race cars. So now it's really interesting because it's like I know how to take off Hans devices and things that you'd never really know about, but you also know all the questions to ask too. It's like that's probably the most interesting thing because people will come in from a racetrack into an emergency room. And I know all the questions to ask. It's like, okay, what kind of car were you in? What kind of safety equipment did you have on? Was it this, or this? How was it set up? Did you get out? Did you crawl out? Did this happen? And they're sort of looking at you going like, how does this random doctor know all of these? It's like, well, I know things.
You're like, and this way, like, was he at Disney?
And come with me, and I'll walk you over there. That's the other thing you're supposed to do at Disney is you don't tell someone to walk if you can take them there. Oh yeah, but so that turned into. Again, what are you doing this weekend? There was a concert. They needed a doctor. There's rules in Queensland about once you get over a certain number of couple thousand people or something like that, you can't just have paramedics. You need a doctor there. And it's like just numbers based, and it's numbers and distance from facility based as well. So if you're in downtown Brisbane, you need thousands of people. So like at the showgrounds here, I did what was that heavy metal concert called? I can't remember the name of them. They have such funny names that they slip my mind all the time. But they had like 5,000 or 6,000 people at that concert, so they needed a doctor. So I did that concert. But I did my first concert with them, and I liked it. And they were just like, well, we actually have this 3-night event going on in the bush, and it was all electronic dance music kind of stuff. And I'm like, could be fun. So popped out there and lived in a caravan for 3 days and did all that. But you don't just do medicine at those. You're doing public health, you're doing public safety stuff, I kept Band-Aids in my pocket all the time because people wore silly shoes and they get blisters on day 2 and you're treating everything. And then there's some drugs. Drugs and alcohol of course are going to be a problem no matter what you do, but a lot of it was, people hurting themselves, people slipping and falling, people getting cold, people getting too hot. If you're dancing and it's 35
totally.
and you're like the dance floors can be anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees warmer than the ambient air. Like if you pack that many people together, they heat up. So it can be a cool night, and I can be wearing a jacket, and people will come in hyperthermic, like in heat stroke. Because they were dancing and they were just stuck in this 40-degree bouncing around, loving their lives, having a great time. But it's now you need an IV, and our goal was to never transport. That's not saying we didn't. Like we sent people to the hospital on a regular basis, but we really tried everything we could to keep people at the events. So give them IV fluids, give them medications, give them, put them in an air-conditioned tent or just put fans on them, throw ice packs on them, cool them off, treat whatever's going on, and then send them back out. Go have fun. You know, they've paid a lot of money to be there. So yeah.
3 days.
Yeah.
Do you choose the concerts that you go to? Like, are you like, oh, Oasis is coming, I'm in? Or is it more just like, hey, Tim, what are you doing this weekend?
I'll sometimes look up. So I usually get the offer because like we're booking out concerts like later in 2025. We know 2026 stuff now already, but you know, like 2025 concerts, they book up, but we don't necessarily, like, you look up who's supposed to be playing, but you don't even necessarily know who's going to be there. So like CMC, when we signed up for it, or when I was told that I was going to be working it, which I was like, awesome.
This is the country music.
The country music concert in Willowbank, actually, out in Queensland Raceway. They're just like, oh, you want to go? I'm like, yeah, sure. Who's playing? We don't know yet. They haven't announced it on the website. I'm like, well, this will be a luck of the draw kind of thing. It turned out it was like people I actually really like listening to. So I was like, oh,
that
great.
Must be a bonus.
Oh, it's going to be such a good time. And
is the tent well positioned so you kind of
not even remotely? I am going to requisition one of the 4x4 buggies, and I'm going to drive myself out to some of these concerts points. But you know, again, it's kind of like working on the ship. You're there to work. You're not it's great to be able to listen to it, but I have a radio. I'm wearing a uniform. It's very definitive that I'm not there to have fun and you can get called on to do all sorts of fun things anytime. So yeah.
What about you were involved in the pill testing?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
So that was, so there's a festival called Rabbits Eat Lettuce. Like I said, fun names. Like,
I feel so old right now.
I was going to say, you were there. No.
Lettuce.
Rabbits Eat Lettuce Festival, yeah. And they had an unfortunate, they had 2 deaths at one of their festivals. This is years pre-COVID at this point now, I want to say 2018, but I don't think that's right. They had 2 deaths. And they were completely unavoidable. They were overdoses. They were 2 people found in their tent on pack-out day. You know, obviously had taken something the night before and just fallen asleep and not woken up. Which, you know, horrible, you know, it doesn't make it better, but, you know, completely unavoidable. But the organizers for the festival were obviously devastated by this, and they wanted to make a difference. They wanted to do something unique. And this was when Pill Testing Australia, the company, was working in Canberra, and they were trying to get pill testing legalized across the country. And we kind of went like, well, this is a good idea. And they went, well, this is a good idea. And Pill Testing Australia was like, yeah, we'll show up. Could be fun. And so we were the first festival in Queensland to have pill testing on site. So it's pill and substance testing officially, I think is what it's called. Yeah. But yeah, so people could come in.
So how does it work?
I was just about to say, like, please tell me how this works.
And because people, you know, I imagine there's a fear component of if you're in there doing something you shouldn't.
Well, so that was the fun thing because we had to getting it organized was really difficult because Queensland Ambulance Service was sort of on side with it, but they didn't want anything to do with it. It was like fair, that's fine, you know. The Queensland government was 50-50. They couldn't decide whether they liked the idea. At the time, they couldn't. The new government now hates it. But at the time, the government couldn't decide whether they liked it or not. Because they didn't want to seem like they were supporting illegal things.
You can understand.
I get it. But, you know, we let people smoke and we let people drink. We know that they're going to do too much. We know that they're going to do dumb things. So we let, you can either put your head in the sand and pretend it's not going to happen, or you can help. So we sort of tried to get everyone on site. Queensland Police, hilariously enough, were 100% on board with it. They thought it was a great idea because they hate dealing with drugs. They don't want to arrest people. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to have a guy who's high as a kite, you know, spitting on people walking by. They don't want to deal with that. So they were just like
knock-on effect for them.
Yeah, and so there are police at all these festivals. They literally wander around in uniforms, you know, watching for illegal things. With people smoking cannabis right next to them. Sometimes it's really funny to watch. But they just basically said, where are you doing it? Oh, right there. Okay. We just won't go there. We'll avoid that area as much as we possibly can. Now, it was right next to where all the food was, so they kind of walked by every so often. But they sort of actively averted their gaze. They didn't look at the people going in there. They tried to make it as comforting as possible. And Pill Testing Australia is really good. You come in, it's a zero judgment. Like, we know that you are bringing us a substance, and you can tell us what you think that substance is. So
and is that all doctors that they're coming in?
No, so it's all chemists. So it's all, there is doctors running it. Like, there's doctors there, and you know, we had to be, like, we met them, and we were very much on board, and we have very, very good communication between us, our group, and their group. And they had chemists and proper spectrometry equipment and stuff like that, and they would just test the substance. So they needed minute amounts. So you took a pill in there, they just kind of like take a little teeny scraping of it, basically. Throw it on a slide thing. I'm not a chemist. And the computer would tell you what was in the pill. And it would tell you concentrations, and it would tell you what it was, and it would tell you what else was in there as well. And it was unbelievable what they found. Like people that thought they were getting MDMA, like ecstasy, and were getting like Valium. People that thought they were getting like magic mushrooms and literally were getting ecstasy or like total drug reversals, pills that had cocaine in them, that they weren't buying this. Like this is not what they wanted. They wanted ecstasy and they were getting cocaine.
Someone's come to you and gone, I thought I was getting this and I've got that.
Yep.
Did they often go, I don't want that, and leave it there?
Regularly, yeah. So they had they call it an amnesty box. It was basically a throw-out box. And that was taken back to one of the universities, and they would like full-on analyze everything that they got in those things to like give a detailed information sheet of like everything is being found in Queensland at that point.
Because I imagine that's really helpful to so many things apart from just the preventative measures on the day, but the information then that can gather and provide to hospitals or the police or all of the different.
We had two really we went from sending on average 10 to 15 people every festival weekend to the hospital with drugs to none that weekend. Not a single. We had people affected by drugs that we were treating, but none of them were sick enough or unknown enough that we had to send them to the hospital. We just kept them. We were able to treat them all on site.
And I guess the fact you were there means that they might be more forthcoming to come and get treatment when they need it as well, rather than waiting.
I'll come back to that in a second. Yeah. People taking drugs are smart. Everyone thinks they're dumb, but they're actually very smart. Right. But the thing that a lot of these people were told is they were handing over a pill, and a typical dose of ecstasy is somewhere between 60 to 100 milligrams, so 80 milligrams, let's say. So your one tablet, you think it's going to have 80 milligrams in it, and it could have 360.
Wow.
And so if you took that, not knowing this, like again, before pill testing, before the concentration gradients were known, you could take it and you would be just seriously in trouble. Like I would be putting multiple IVs and giving drugs and probably sending that person to the hospital. Pill Testing Australia would advise them, crack it in half, crack it in quarters. Like, we know you're going to take this, so do it safely. So we just stopped getting overdoses. And when we did get overdoses, we would go through their stuff, because it's like, nothing personal, dude, but you're unconscious. I need to know what's going on. And we'd find baggies, we'd find pill remnants, we'd find the powder in a bag. We could take it over to Pill Testing Australia and say, I have an unconscious person next door. Can you test this right now? They'd dump us to the front of the line, test it, and immediately tell us what it was. So we would know.
So you know what you're dealing with.
We know instantly what it is. So it's like, great, I'm going to run back door next door now, and I'm just going to give all the right antidotes. Like if I can fix it, or at least I know exactly what I'm dealing with. And if they did go to the hospital, I could tell the hospital, I have a guy who has taken blank, as confirmed by, So that information is invaluable. But like, people at festivals know that the medical team is there to help them. So if they're in trouble or one of their friends is in trouble, they will bring them to us. And we are very non-judgmental about I'm not going to say non-judgmental. We sometimes are a little bit judgy when it's like, you haven't had any water and you've been taking ecstasy and drinking alcohol all day. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to judge you a little bit on that one, but politely. After we treat you, and education and all that. But after we treat you, we might talk to you a little bit about your decision making. But they want to have fun. They're there to have fun, and they're going to do things so that they have fun. It's like the difference between someone who's going out to get absolutely, completely drunk as they possibly can, and someone who's just going to have a couple to have a nice night. These people want to have fun, so they're going to go out. They're going to take their drugs, which is fine. If you want to take drugs, take drugs. But if something goes wrong, they always know the medical team is there to help them if needed. And we maintain that non-judgmental, we are here to help you. So bring your friends here. Don't let them wallow in their tent. We'll look after them for 4 or 5 hours if we need to. We don't mind. We have chairs out back, and we have stretchers set up, and we will look after them. And we'll make them feel better, and then, give them a Band-Aid and send them on their way.
It's an interesting initiative, isn't it? And I think that debate, no doubt, will go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's purely a public health thing. It's risk mitigation. It's risk management.
To know what's out there at the moment in the market too, so that all of you imagine all of the emergency departments, if they all had that knowledge of what is currently actually.
Pill Testing Australia is on Instagram. I have no idea what the handle thing is, but it's on Instagram, and they post things every few days of, we have found this, and it's a picture of the pill with a little like grid behind it, so you know how big it is, and all these things. And this is what they thought it was, and this is what it turns out it is. And it's highly potent, or this is a pill that was being sold as ecstasy, and it's actually 100% cocaine. Please don't take it. Things like that. So it's that public knowledge, the education information is out there, and people can find that information. Like, if you're in an emergency room and you see, turns out they're people are selling cocaine on the Gold Coast. I should keep that in mind when I go do my shift and things like that.
What do you do in your downtime? Do you have downtime? Like, you're there,
You're super busy.
Defence base, you're out on locum.
Oh, no, I take weekends off all the
Yeah.
time. Well, every other weekend-ish. No, I just mountain biking sometimes. Just a lot of play with my kids. I hang out with my family. I just spend time with my family. I don't see them a lot because I'm gone in the morning usually before they're awake, and I only see them for a couple hours in the afternoon. So I'll just spend time with them. We'll go do stuff on the weekends with them or whatever. Just hang out, relax, take some downtime of my own, and just not think for a little while.
Yeah. Do you have your next thing that you're thinking? I mean, I know you just don't think, but and to be fair, you probably don't.
Should we
You just
add some more?
look at a paper and go, I might do this. But is there
Or do you ever
something
think that
else?
you'll do one thing? Do you ever think that you'll get to a point where I'm just going to get a permanent full-time job. It's going to be Monday to Friday, and I'm going to be in this location for the next 3 years.
I would be so.
Or maybe I want to be a
bored.
politician because I don't know. So
no.
what's next?
God, no. No one would want me to be a politician because I would be too honest and just look at people and be just like, no. I would not do well in a political sphere.
No judgment with my patients. It'd be full judgment.
It would just, I'd take all of the judgment that I've been reserving. And, I actually have my diploma for the Royal Australian College of Medical Administration. I got my rural management diploma through them as well. So I've done some, work with management spheres and rural hospitals and things. But honestly, I kind of like what I do at this level. I like the level of busyness I've managed to fix a good spot with, kind of thing. Sometimes it's a bit too much and sometimes it's not enough. But I'm happy with what I'm doing right now. I'll probably keep doing it for a little while, but I'm always very open to the next hospital or the next place or the next location to see if there's anything interesting out there, to see if there's something fun to do, if there's, like the population in the area where I live is exploding, and the hospitals in those areas are going to have to be redeveloped in the next sort of 5 years or so. So that'll be interesting because suddenly there'll be a brand new hospital next door that, I can give them a ring on a Wednesday and see what happens.
Happening on the
What are you
weekend.
doing on the weekend?
Yeah.
Do you go back to Kingaroy?
No.
Do you have a favourite location or that you think, gosh, I need a break, I wouldn't mind going out to?
I need a break.
So maybe that was me
From the
speaking.
4-year-old.
I need a break from my 4-year-olds. Actually, no, they're pretty good. My kids are actually really well behaved. It's annoying. I can't say it's their fault.
Do you say they're 4 and 2?
They're 4. I have twin
you
girls.
got twins.
I have twin girls.
Twin girls.
twin
Oh,
girls.
well, wait till 4 turns into 14. Perhaps.
Twin girls at 8.
Yeah, I've accepted my 4. I've accepted that, I'm just going to have a shed out back or something. That's fine. Or I'll go do like 1 week locums instead of 2 day locums and things. Yeah. I really like McLean down in New South Wales in that area. It's just a perfect size ED at this point for me. It's not too big, not too small. It's 24 hours a day. It's staffed properly. It's managed well. Good support, good staff. I like it there. It's a nice town too. There's things to do in the area, and it's not too far away from home, so I can get there and get back relatively easily.
Do you ever take your family?
They don't do a lot of locums with. I used to before kids. Shannon would come with me on some locums. So I did some Tasmania stuff down in Launceston and things, and she came with me. And she's like, I worked 14 days or 13 days in a row with 1 day off at the middle to go from day shift to night shift. And she...
Which isn't a day off.
No, because you stay up as late as you possibly can.
Yeah.
You try to get as much sleep as you can, and then at 7 p.m. you go back to the hospital. It's like, so we had a nice dinner though.
Yeah. Lucky Shannon.
Yeah. But she went and did photography, and she went and was a tourist, and because they gave me a rental car, which I thought was hilarious because the only time I used it was actually to get from the airport to the hotel, because the hotel was maybe 2 blocks from the hospital. So I made sure that the rental car was in her name as well. Like I paid the extra money to get it in her name, and I'm just like, here you go, have a great 2-week vacation in Launceston, completely paid for by a locum company. And I mean, I encourage all of the married doctors that I know, especially if you're pre-kids, like, man, go do a locum, because you're going to get put up in a hotel, they're going to give you a car, and you're going to be in a brand new place, and you're paid to be there, and they'll add on a day here and there, and if you want to spend an extra day there, they'll probably keep the hotel for you for an extra day. And
you're in need, you're in demand.
And one of the things you guys know this, one of the things I always ask for is if I go do locums, if there's like a week in the middle, I'll ask them to rent me a minivan. And then I'll fly the family in. So I did over Christmas this year, or pardon me, Christmas last year technically, I guess. I did a whole bunch of work in South Australia, up and down the peninsula, and I took 5 days off over Christmas. but I got them to rent a minivan for me instead of just a car. So tossed some kid seats in the back of the minivan, and we had a 5-day vacation.
Oh, how
Amazing.
cool is that?
Yeah.
Make the most of it.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah,
opportunities.
just have fun, and it was great. It was like, let's check out this new location that we've never been to before, and there was a water park there, hilariously enough, and things like that. Yeah, it's like, apparently I went to this. What was the town called? Cowell.
Oh, yeah.
Cowell in South
Yeah,
Australia, and they had just spent like apparently just a couple of years before that they'd spent like $11 million building this amazing water park and redeveloping the entire waterfront, and it was great.
Wow.
The town, it was amazing. It had slides, it had splash pads, it had one of those big inflatable bouncy things.
When you just put on the location guide.
Oh yeah, like it was like
Perfect for a family.
Oh, if you're doing a week there, there's so much to do just in and around that area. You could easily fill a week up with kids there. That was a great little hospital. That was a very small hospital actually. That was that was basically working in a GP office. Just happened to have a hospital attached to it.
And a water park out the front.
And yeah, and it was all walking distance because it's a small town. And then I think from there I went down to Port Lincoln after that. And Port Lincoln's a big town, like practically city size. But yeah.
Super adventurous. I love the variety and the things that you keep just pushing forward with. CMR are going to make a donation to a charity
Lovely.
of your choice with this episode.
So there's the Rural Doctors Association of Queensland.
Yeah.
RDAQ is a group that I'm with, and they have a charity, the foundation actually, RDAQ Foundation, that helps rural doctors' families. So it's a support system for the families, and that's what they're there for. They have a big long acronym name that I can never remember, and I always feel really guilty that I can't. But it's the Rural Families Association essentially, and they help people. You're moving into a small town. Here's what to expect. Here's a woman who's been in that town before, or a person who's been in that town before, who can talk to you and tell you exactly what to do. And you need to order this from this place and go to this baker and go to this place, and this is where you can find that. No, don't go to that one. Go to this one instead. Or go to this one, not that one. And
so if we can support the families
of
the doctors,
the healthcare professionals will be staying.
Yeah, interestingly, in Canada, they just started this brand new initiative in a lot of the small rural areas. Free childcare, free babysitting, guaranteed spots in daycares. Like this because they can't. Governments are not allowed to change the salaries. Like we all get that as doctors. We know that the government can't raise the salary, so it's the what else. Like you want me to come work in your small little town that has seemingly nothing to draw your family there. What are you going to give me? Well, it's not hard to get a place in a daycare. Like, they all know each other. They probably know who owns the daycare. They could just go over there and say, hey, if we get a doctor who has a 3-year-old, can you just make room for them? Sure. They'll do that. Like if you know walking into a town that your partner has a job and your kid has and you know when you walk into a small town that your kid has daycare or school or whatever, your partner has a job, and your house has been sorted for at least sort of the first 6 months or so while you figured out yourself, you're going to go. And you're going to probably stay.
I was just going to say, you'll probably stay.
Yeah, and you'll stay longer.
If the family is happier, you can actually do what you do and work and not be worried.
Recruitment of doctors is usually you talk to the doctor. Retention of doctors is the family. Because if you go home every night and your partner hates their life because they're in a place that they don't want to be, you're not staying. You're just not. But if the family loves it there, then you're going to stay.
That is so well said. About recruitment and retention. Like it really is about the family. And
remember, we went down to Victoria once, and we met some of the doctors that we placed, and their families all came. We went and had a cup of tea with them and things, and they were so. It was so grateful for the immersion of the families into those communities was so crucial.
And when doctors go to conferences, like we're wandering around the halls and like we're seeing all these recruitment companies. Like there's, CMR is a good one, and that's why I stay with them. But there's others,
there's
and
a lot.
They're all trying to recruit you. But the ones that we're going to stay with are the ones that will find out what our spouses do. Like right out, like, okay, you're a doctor, great, cool. There's 15 others walking next to you. What does your spouse do? Can we find them a job? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do next? How can we make it so that you want to stay there? And I think that there's a bit of a shift coming that way, but it's really hard. It's really hard to convince. It's more than a
transaction.
Yeah, it's really hard to convince management people too that, we can't spend money on a break room. We have to spend money on a daycare spot. Or we can't spend money on a new lounge. We need to spend money on hire cars or something like that. Or we need to spruce up the doctor's house. Like it's all well and good that they give you a doctor's house that has no aircon in it in Queensland. And it's like, well, I'm not going to stay. you know.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to like it here. I'm going to have to go and spend my own money to get aircon and things like
And it'll be minimal, and I'll do it for what needs to be, and then I'll move on.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, Tim, for your time today.
No, thanks for having me.
So many great stories, and like such a life lived.
Yeah.
It's
Already.
All at the last minute,
so
too.
all at the last minute, which I love. Like everything happens for a reason, and it certainly has for you. And
Yeah.
we're just thrilled to have you as part of our CMR community. So thank you
very
for your
much.
time.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Thanks for tuning into It Takes Heart. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend.
And if you know someone with a great story in healthcare, get in touch. Follow us on socials for all the behind the scenes fun, and we'll see you next time.